can say human beings are co-creators of this cosmic process. And therefore they are extremely powerful. We have many examples. I did give the example of the flood. How to contain flood and transform a natural disaster into, let's say, irrigation system beneficial to the human community as a whole. So this idea of being able to transform natural disasters into something, the story about Noah, right? But the Sage King Yu, very different ways of dealing with the natural situation. So the assumption is, if there are natural disasters, human beings eventually will be able to prevail. Human beings cannot overcome one kind of disaster, which is man-made. So the idea is that all the misfortunes that are beyond human control, like natural disasters, human beings will be able to survive all of them. The only kind of disaster human beings cannot survive turn out to be the disaster caused by humans themselves. Normally this is talking about the self, a person. A person would be able to survive all the forces from the outside, but would not survive his or her own wickedness, his own self-inflicted disaster. And precisely because human beings are powerful as co-creators, they're also major destroyers. The destructive power of the human is very early recognized. And yet, a human being ought to be rooted in his or her body, her family, the community as a whole, and Earth. In other words, the Confucian position, different from virtually all the other major religious traditions, is to consider a person embodied in the world here and now. We don't consider our body as a constraint. Last time I talked about we actually become our body. Bodies are achievements, attainments. And of course, we don't leave the community in which we are a part of it. That's our home. We certainly don't want to go beyond Earth. Earth, the so-called secular world, is our proper niche for human survival and flourish. All these ideas of embodiment is often misunderstood as a kind of secular humanism. To take, in the Christian tradition, render things that are Caesar to Caesar, render things that God to gods. The world of the Caesars, the world here and now, like the Buddhist notion, is not worth our ultimate concern. Our ultimate concern is the kingdom of God yet to come, of the other shore, of the Pure Land. But the Confucians accept the world here and now as sacred, the secular world as sacred. So one book by Fingeret is regarding the secular as sacred. But even there, you can be, I think we should be more radical, because since there's no distinction between what is the secular, what is sacred. So to say regarding the secular as sacred, you still assume there's a separation. But normally there's no separation. So our ordinary human existence is where the ultimate meaning of life can be realized. So that's the reason why I characterize the Confucian tradition as a form of spiritual humanism. There's one statement in an Analects which can be easily misunderstood. That is, the humans can make the Wei great. The Wei cannot make humans great. If you translate into some other traditions, like the Christian tradition, humans can make God great. God cannot make humans great. This was considered blasphemous. This is human arrogance. But what Confucius wanted to convey a sense of responsibility, because the cosmic process is natural. this heaven doesn't want to make human beings great, because this idea of greatness, smallness, and so forth are categories that humans constructed. It has nothing to do with the natural order. And yet, human beings can not only glorify themselves, glorify their communities by creating great values in their culture. If they do that, they can also glorify heaven. So heaven is natural, but the human construction of the culture can be an enhancement of what the natural world really is. Unlike the Taoists would consider all human constructions artificial, therefore worthless. We should just go back to nature, like Rousseau's notion, Henry Rousseau's notion that we should, the savage, the noble savage is what we should learn to be, just part of nature. If we put too much emphasis on culture, then our true nature will be undermined. But the Confucians put a lot of emphasis on the positive value of creating culture. And culture, in fact, is an enhancement. Culture is not simply distortion or artificial imposition of nature. Culture can enhance the intrinsic value of nature. Now, Mencius, if you look at the book, I assume you've already gone through it at least once. And what is the book about? And of course, there's a lot of discussion. Now, my personal reading, which is subject to challenge and subject to criticism. It's a book in defense of a group of people like us. So the book of Mencius is in defense of what may be called a group of people who are learners, who are intellectuals, who are not involved in either agriculture for maintaining livelihood, or manufacturing industry as workers, or in trade like merchants. These people are doing something different, and difficult to know what they're doing in general. And this book is a defense of not that profession, but that for people and that kind of work. So there's one chapter, I hope, it's a very long chapter. I hope you encountered it, and it's very significant. It's a chapter on the division of labor. He was responding to some of the people who believe that all values came from the land. So everybody should be involved in the cultivation of the land. So he didn't like that. He said, how do you cultivate the land? You cannot do it without your clothes, so you should have a weaver without implements, so you have to have smiths and people who produce implements. And you really have to have merchants to trade, otherwise the market will not function. So he immediately recognizes agriculture, manufacturing industry, and trading, the role of the merchant, the worker, and the farmer as absolutely essential for the survival of society. But there's one group of people who do not produce, do not manufacture, do not trade. And why should we respect them? What is the role of this group of people? Doing what? In a modern context, it's not difficult to argue, have the service sector and what is the other one? The service sector?
Goods?
No. The service sector, people who labor with their minds, but then you have the production. So these two are interchangeable. Of course, in the service sector, you have those people who wait, for example, in the restaurants and so forth, but those who perform service like in medicine or law or in other professions. Now, Mencius is arguing why should there be a group of people who we call them scholars or literati, who do not labor with their mind, or labor with physical energy, but